The phone is ringing, emails are coming in, papers are piling up, people are talking, meetings are happening, and your entire day seems packed with activity. Then Friday arrives. You finally stop and ask yourself, what did I actually accomplish this week? And sometimes the uncomfortable answer is, not much. That is one of the biggest traps in life. We confuse being busy with moving forward. But movement and progress are not the same thing. A spinning wheel is moving, but it is not necessarily taking you anywhere. A person can work 12 hours a day, answer hundreds of messages, attend endless meetings, and still finish the year exactly where they started. Because effort without direction gets scattered. You can spend enormous energy and still produce very little if you don't know what you're trying to build. The real question isn't, am I busy? The real question is my activity taking me closer to something that matters? That distinction can completely change the way you live. Think about a rocking chair. It moves constantly, but it never leaves the room. A train may move slowly at times, but it has a destination. Which one represents your life? Many people reach the end of a year completely exhausted. They worked hard, they sacrificed sleep, they dealt with problems, they stayed occupied from morning until night. But when they look back, the year feels like a blur. They were active, but were they advancing? I learned this lesson myself. There was a period when I believed being constantly occupied meant I was being productive. I said yes to everything. I chased every opportunity. I kept myself busy and convinced myself that I was making progress. Eventually, I had to admit something uncomfortable. I had been running in circles. There was plenty of movement, but very little meaningful progress. That was when I understood a simple principle. Activity needs direction. If you don't know where you want to go, working harder won't necessarily get you there. Imagine getting into a car without knowing your destination. You can drive all day. You can use more fuel, travel more miles, and still end up somewhere you never wanted to be. That is exactly what happens when you live without a plan. And this is why one of the most important skills you can develop is what I call blueprint thinking. Before a building becomes real, it exists as an idea. An architect doesn't simply start throwing bricks onto the ground and hope a house appears. There is a design, there is a structure. There is an understanding of what the finished building should look like before construction begins. Your life works the same way. You have to build it twice. First in your mind, then in reality. A clear vision gives your effort somewhere to go. Without clarity, everything competes for your attention. Every new opportunity looks important. Every interruption feels urgent. Other people's priorities slowly become your priorities. But when you know what you're building, decisions become much easier. You can ask, does this move me closer to the life I'm trying to create? If the answer is no, you have permission to let it go. That is the power of having a blueprint. And your blueprint doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to exist. Take a sheet of paper and write down what you genuinely want to accomplish. Don't leave it as a vague dream like, I want to become successful. Make it specific. What do you want to build? What do you want to learn? What do you want your finances, career, relationships, health, or business to look like? The clearer the target becomes, the easier it becomes to organize your actions around it. Without a target, you can work incredibly hard and still miss the mark. And when there is no plan, something else takes control. Drift. Drifting rarely looks dangerous in the beginning. You don't suddenly destroy your future in one afternoon. Instead, you postpone one decision, then another. You tell yourself you'll figure it out later. You wait for the perfect opportunity. You allow circumstances to choose your direction. Days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, and eventually you look around and wonder, how did I end up here? The answer is often simple. You never deliberately chose where you were going. Life simply carried you there. Think of a boat without a captain. The water doesn't need to be violent to take it somewhere else. A gentle current is enough if you allow it to continue long enough. That is why goals matter. Goals give you something to steer toward. A goal written down is different from a wish floating around inside your head. Writing it down forces you to define it. It turns an idea into something you can measure, but don't stop at the goal. A goal tells you where you want to go. A plan tells you how you're going to get there. Suppose you want to build a business. Don't simply write, start a business. Decide what needs to happen first. Research the market. Develop the offer. Find customers. Set weekly targets. Learn the necessary skills. Create deadlines. Now the dream has structure. And once your plan has structure, you can put it on your calendar. This is where many people fail. They have goals, they have plans, but they never schedule the work. They say, I'll do it when I have time. Be careful with that sentence. You may never have extra time. Life will always provide another phone call, another problem, another meeting, another distraction. If something is important, give it a place on your calendar. If you want to exercise, schedule it. If you want to study, schedule it. If you want to build a business, schedule the work. If you want to write a book, schedule writing time. Your calendar is more than a list of appointments. It is a defense system for your priorities. Because if you don't decide how your time will be used, somebody or something else will decide for you. But there is another important piece. Your plan has to remain flexible. Life doesn't follow your schedule perfectly. Markets change, opportunities disappear, new opportunities appear, circumstances shift. Sometimes your original goal becomes less important than it seemed when you first wrote it. That doesn't mean your plan failed. It means you need to adjust. Think of your plan as a map, not a prison. You can change the route while keeping the destination. Review your progress regularly. Ask yourself, what worked? What didn't? What changed? What should I stop doing? What deserves more attention? Small corrections made early can prevent enormous problems later. You don't need to wait until you're completely lost before changing direction. And then comes accountability. A plan becomes much more powerful when you measure what is happening. Track your progress. Record your habits. Measure your results. Review your numbers. If your goal is fitness, measure your workouts. If your goal is business growth, track sales and leads. If your goal is learning, track the hours you spend practicing. What gets measured becomes visible, and what becomes visible can be improved. Accountability can also come from another person, a mentor, a coach, a trusted friend, someone willing to ask you the questions you may not ask yourself. Did you actually do what you said you would do? That question can be uncomfortable, but discomfort is often useful. Feedback isn't an insult, it's information. It tells you where you're improving and where you're wasting time. The goal isn't to create a perfect plan. In fact, waiting for perfection can become another form of procrastination. Some people spend months planning because planning feels safer than acting. They want every detail solved before they begin. But you cannot discover everything from a distance. Sometimes you have to move before you can see the next step. A simple plan that you actually execute is more valuable than a brilliant plan sitting inside a notebook. Start. Take action. Observe the results. Make corrections. Then continue. That cycle is where real progress comes from. Plan. Act. Review. Adjust. Repeat. And when you repeat that process consistently, something powerful begins to happen. Small improvements start to compound. One productive day doesn't transform your life. One focused week probably won't either. But hundreds of focused days can completely change your future. The difference is consistency. You don't need to make one giant move. You need to make the right moves repeatedly. Think about how a small investment grows over time. The first few deposits may seem insignificant, but with consistency, those small contributions begin creating something much larger. Your habits work the same way. Every planned hour matters. Every focused session matters. Every difficult decision to stay on course matters. Every time you choose your priority over a distraction, you're building momentum. Eventually, what once felt difficult becomes normal. That is how a designed life is created. Not through one extraordinary day, through ordinary days handled with intention. So before you finish today, ask yourself some honest questions. What am I actually trying to accomplish? What is my destination? Do I have a written goal? Do I have a practical plan? Have I scheduled the actions required to make it happen? Am I measuring my progress? And when something isn't working, am I willing to change? Because being busy isn't the goal. Looking productive isn't the goal. Exhaustion isn't the goal. Progress is the goal. Your time is moving whether you have a plan or not. The calendar will continue turning. The weeks will become months. The months will become years. The only question is what those years will produce. So stop letting activity fool you. Stop believing that a full day automatically means a productive day. Decide what matters. Create the blueprint. Turn your vision into specific goals. Turn those goals into a plan. Turn the plan into scheduled action. Track what happens. Review your results. Adjust when necessary. And then show up again tomorrow. You don't need to know every step of the journey. You just need enough clarity to take the next one in the right direction. Don't become someone who spends years moving without arriving. Become the architect of your own future. Build intentionally. Move with purpose. And remember this: a busy life is not necessarily a successful life. Motion can create noise, but direction creates progress. So make the plan. Take the first step and keep moving towards something that matters.